Mike, I am struggling to figure out ideas of what to do in February. Do you know where I could find some tips or a guide or what I should be doing in this special month?
Yes, I do know. And as a fringe benefit, you'll get to see me, too. And I'll get to see you because it's a live CityCast taping.
That's right. We are so excited to announce our first live taping of 2024 with a very special guest, Jade Womack. You might know her as Clock Out DC. She will be joining Mike and I at the Square Food Hall on Saturday, February 3rd.
But wait, where is the Square Food Hall?
It is downtown, 1850 K Street Northwest. And if you come at noon, you'll get to meet the team, enjoy exclusive food and drink specials from the Square chefs. Our taping begins at 1.
And wait, so what are some of the options of things we might learn about?
Well, Jade's going to be sharing all kinds of recommendations on how to live your best DC life this February. And she's pretty much the expert to all things DC, so she should know.
Well, for me, the main activity in February has now already been made clear, which is that I get to hang out with my co-host, Bridget Todd.
That's right. I'm so excited to see you. So Saturday, February 3rd at the Square. Come at noon to hang out with us. The taping begins at 1. You can find the RSVP link in the show notes. Today on CityCast DC. Folks in DC are not really shy about talking about how much they make. And DC recently passed a law requiring employers to post salary ranges, which will go into effect this June. Last March, I chatted with Hannah Williams, the woman behind Salary Transparency Street, about why she covers salary transparency, why it's so important, and what she wants to see in these kinds of salary transparency laws. Today's Wednesday, January 31st. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Hannah Williams, you are the founder of one of my all-time favorite TikToks, the Salary Transparency Street TikTok. When I got my gig here at CityCast, I had to put together some pitches of possible stories, and I pitched this one. I was like, oh my God.
That's so
should
cool.
Definitely talk to Hannah. So I'm so excited to speak to you today.
That's awesome, Bridget. Oh my gosh, I'm so stoked to hear it. I love talking to OGs.
Oh, yes. You know, I first became aware of what you're doing on TikTok through the TikToks that were in DC. How does DC compare to other cities when it comes to salary transparency?
Honestly, I love filming in DC or the DMV area more than any place we've gone. We started in the DMV. We live in this area. So we're like kind of locals, and people just like have this excitement about them when they see us. Like I feel like people don't really see us as celebrities, although they act like they do. I just love connecting with them. I'm like, you guys are our people. You guys are the community that we really started with. And so it's just like coming home every time we go out, and people are so nice. I would say Eastern cities are usually like kind of tough. Like New York City is rough. Oh my gosh, we get humbled so quickly out there. But DC's a little different. I mean, we've still got people on the street that, think that we're trying to get them to sign up to donate money and things like that. But for the most part, they're really open to the conversation, and they seem excited about it too, to share about their careers. Like people are proud of their careers, which you see a lot in DC.
Yeah, some of the people that you come up to, I can tell by their face that they are so glad you asked. They're so excited to talk about it. They have been waiting to be asked to spill the tea on their salary for a while. Why were you all certain that DC would be, like it would work in DC, what you all do?
I love that people think that we're that smart, but it was really just like random. And we started in DC because we lived here. It was a matter of location over anything. So I live in Alexandria, Virginia, outside in the suburbs. It's way too expensive in the city for me. And we just needed a place to go. And I went to Georgetown. I'm a frequent person around Georgetown. And I was like, what a great place to start doing interviews. There's great foot traffic. So it was really like a seamless idea for us to go out on the street where we live. I wish that I had been like more strategic about it, but it was really just a random choice.
Have you had any surprising findings doing this in DC?
So the first day that actually we got interviews on camera because the mic worked was in Georgetown. People don't know that the day before that, we had gone out to like Capitol Hill with a different microphone and we were going to try the interviews. And we had 2 microphones and we were like, if this one doesn't work, we have to try the other. Surprise, it didn't work. So that first day, we lost like all our interviews. But that was the first day that we actually went out to try. And we came across this one guy, middle-aged white guy, I'd say maybe in his 40s or so. And it was Friday around like 5 or 6 o'clock. City was empty. You know, everyone's going home way before then. He was just getting off work. And, you know, I approached him, asked him, hey, you know, we're doing interviews. Can I ask you what you do and how much you make? And he was like, absolutely not, but I'll tell you off camera. And I was like, okay, like, I don't really care to hear off camera, but sure. And he told me he was a lawyer and he made $2 million.
Oh my God.
To this day is actually like the highest salary we've heard from anyone. And it kills me that it was like the first actual day we went, didn't get it on camera, nothing. I think I just stood there with like my jaw dropped for a couple seconds and was like, thanks, have a great day.
Why do you think he didn't want to tell you on camera?
I think it's really like we see this taboo or like this spread among demographics and, you know, people who are willing to share and people who aren't. And usually what I find, in addition to age, gender, race, demographics, and all those differences, is with salaries, people who make really little and people who make a lot are the ones that are least likely to share. And so I think that he was probably one of those that made a lot. And I don't know, there's this humbleness or something that people don't want to put out there. There's also people who don't want their family or their friends to know how much they make. So I think that might be why.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do remember one specific couple that sticks with me. It was a Black couple pushing a baby, and they both worked in tech, and they had high salaries, but like, I remember in the comments of the TikTok, people were like, oh, they could probably, with their backgrounds, they could make higher salaries elsewhere. And then somebody else was like, oh, they probably have work-life balance things, like they have a baby. And I think that it does open people up to a level of scrutiny and like question asking and filling in the blanks about choices that you've made about your life and your family. There's not many other things that would really invite that in quite the same way as salary transparency.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I echo that. And I'm really protective of the people that we interview. Like, I'll admit it. Like, if people say really nasty, like mean things, I don't even report the comments. I just delete them and block those people. Like, if you're willing to be transparent in a way that we want the world to be, whether people agree or disagree with how much you make, you shouldn't be scrutinized for that, for just being open about your salary. And it's really frustrating when people bully people that we interview and question them like, oh, well, that was a bad decision and things like that. And it's like, you can't learn about people in a 60-second clip. There's so much context that we can't cover that I really hope people consider, but sometimes they don't. And it does open them up to scrutiny in the comments, but definitely in their personal lives as well. So they're really brave. I protect them with all my heart.
Well, I appreciate the way that you intentionally foster that kind of vibe, because salary transparency helps everybody. Like, knowing what people make is the only way that we're going to get pay equity and things like that. But if we have a climate where if people do talk about how much they make, they're opening themselves up to bullying and negative comments and all of that, people won't do it. So we know that the federal government has public salaries, right? And so if I wanted to, for folks who work for the federal government, I could look up how much they make. Do you think that that's one of the reasons why people in D.C. are willing to talk about how much they make? Because in some cases, it's already public information?
Absolutely. And it kills me every single time I meet someone who's like, oh, I work for the government. It's already transparent. I'm like, I freaking know. Like, we need to make this like a federal nationwide thing. Like, it bothers me so much that we have systems in place already that are fully transparent, that work, you know, the government, the military, you name it. And like, we, for some reason, can't convince corporate America to see different. It kills me. And sometimes I meet people in DC. These are the ones that kind of make me laugh, is when people are like, oh, well, it's already transparent. Like, you could just look it up. Yeah, you don't need to interview me. And I'm like, yeah, but like, people don't know that. So it would be wonderful to hear from you otherwise, you know, and still share the information and have somebody say, this is already a thing. It's been a thing forever. So I don't know why y'all are fussing about it. You know, that's my attitude about it.
Do you hear that a lot? Like, oh, it's already transparent. Look it up.
Definitely for government workers, which is pretty prevalent in DC. And like, sometimes we have teachers and like people that work at hospitals and such that are like, well, we're internally transparent. Like, you can look it up, like it's online. And I'm like, Okay, well, it would still be super helpful for you to share that because people don't know. People are still getting underpaid. We still have these pay gaps that are persisting. And so not everyone's going to work for the government. The majority of us are going to work for private corporate America. So we need to talk about how these transparent systems are good, and how they're working for you. And if they're not, how can we improve them so that we can use them as a model in corporate America? These are conversations we need to have.
Yeah, to that point, would you get behind something like adopting some sort of GS scale or transparency around private companies? Is that something that you think would be useful or good?
Definitely. I think that's my ultimate goal, really, is to make pay transparency a law. It has to be something that is being federally enforced nationwide, and corporate America needs to respond to that. I think the goal is transparency looks different in all organizations. It can be completely transparent where a total stranger can look into a company and see what a secretary is making, or it can be internally transparent, where they list it on job listings and such, but there's not an internal database that you can search for. There's a couple different models that work differently and have pros and cons for different companies based on their size and their model. But ultimately, what we need to have is that beginning transparency in that job description. When people go to a company, they need to know that the salary is worth their while. If they do an interview and they take the time out of their day and their work day and their PTO to apply an interview at your company, make it worth their while. Make sure that they know what they're going to be paid. And also keep practicing that within the company. Once you have that in the job description, then people internally can look up, when roles are open and see what they're hiring for. Are you up to par with that? That's the most simple way to have a transparent system, but still guarantee that internally and externally, people are getting paid what they deserve and everyone's on a fair playing field. But I think the GS system is interesting with the different tiers and such. What I love about the GS system and the scale is they really have it down pat, being able to explain why people are at the level they are. And I think that's what corporate America struggles with, is they cannot justify how much people are getting paid. A lot of companies are just $5,000 bonus here. You look like you can make $80K, we'll give you that, without being able to justify to that person, we pay you X because of XXX. You need to be able to give that answer. And I think that's what the GS scale is really good at, is they have all those qualifications and such. That's probably why their applications are so lengthy. But it's helpful, people know why they're getting paid how much and what they need to do next to get to the next level. That's not clear in corporate America right now. It's a great scale that they should follow.
Speed into success. Learn French. Much like a high-speed train, Alliance Française's immersive French language classes propel you towards fluency. Unlock a world of personal and professional possibilities when you become a member and learn French at the renowned Alliance Française chapter in DC. Tradition and modernity intertwine, offering you an unparalleled learning experience that includes language classes, cultural events, and the only loan library in French language in the Mid-Atlantic region. Embrace the language that bridges cultures and enriches your resume. Enroll today. The spring session starts on February 19th. All ages and levels are welcome. After all, they are the French heartbeat of the nation's capital. Find them at www.francedc.org.
Shipping can make or break a sale, so optimize how you ship your orders with ShipStation. They make it easy to automate and manage orders no matter how big your business grows. And they might even be able to help reduce shipping and warehouse costs. So optimize and keep up your momentum for growth with ShipStation. Sign up for your free 60-day trial now at ShipStation.com and use the code POD. That's ShipStation.com with the code POD.
Do you think that if we had more of that kind of transparency in corporate America or private companies, that companies would, rather than making it so that folks were paid what they, actually deserved or things like that, do you think that companies would just lower salaries to be like, oh, we don't want to have to justify what we're paying, we can't explain this, so let's just lower it for everybody?
If they did that, I'd be so disappointed. And I think a lot of workers would be too. There are some statistics and research out there that show that when you do have a transparent system, you see the highest earners, white men, Asian men, the top of the food barrel there, they plateau. Meanwhile, everyone else that's been behind comes back up, and that's where it levels out. I care about everybody getting paid on the same level, even if that's a little bit less over time in terms of the scale we see it growing. As long as everyone's on the same playing field, then you can attack it together. But as long as you have those discrepancies and people making less just because of their race or their gender, you're not going to have a good system or company culture. And so if you choose to inevitably lower salaries as well, but also not, bring people up to par, you're just going to have people leave. I think we live in a really interesting age in work culture where we're holding companies accountable and corporate accountable, and I don't see that slowing down. So information is power. And if we see trends like that, I think workers are going to respond negatively, as they should.
Oof, nothing fills me with more like petty joy than when someone screenshots a job application with either no salary listed or like a truly just insulting, offensively low salary for what they're asking for someone to do. And it just gets dragged all over social media. I'm like liking every comment. I love it. I love it.
I live for it. Yep.
Yeah. The DC area is surprisingly like pretty strong when it comes to pay transparency. Why do you think that is?
Definitely the federal presence in DC is everything. We see a lot of federal government employees, and so they're already practicing pay transparency. Military employees are practicing pay transparency, but I think DC is dope. Like there's this awesome culture in DC about, the taxation without representation, just this real strength and sense of identity that this area doesn't take shit. I hope I can swear.
Go for
it.
But
they stand up for their rights, and they're loud and proud about it. And I really love where I live because I identify so much with that energy. And I think it fuels me to keep going. And I think it's also because we have proximity to the government and we're like, yeah, you're in our neighborhood, we can make change. But, it's little baby steps like that and that kind of energy that does cause actual change that will help a lot of people. And so I just think it's the energy in this city. It's people also make good salaries in white collar work, but then we also see a lot of need for representation of teachers and social workers and metro workers. It kills me whenever I do interviews and I talk to people that I feel have possibly the highest responsibility in our society, like teachers, educators, and such, and the people that make our cities run. And they usually make the least amount, which is really frustrating. But back to DC being proud, I think that workers are still proud of what they do and they're open to sharing because they want that knowledge out there. They want representation. Taxation without representation, it goes the same way with salaries. We don't know what we don't know. And until we put those salaries out on a pedestal and we show a face to that salary, we won't implement that change.
It's like a quintessential DC thing. We're a city of rabble-rousers. And because people here some of us do make good, comfortable livings, we can advocate for other people and can be a little bit more of an agitator on behalf of others so that we're all paid what we're worth.
Absolutely. I think nail on the head. You got it. We really stand up for each other and we want to help each other.
Hannah, is there anything that we want to make sure gets included that we didn't ask?
I'll shout it out there. I'll do some shameless promo. We have a salary database on our website. You can find us on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. We're at Salary Transparency. You can find our salary database. It's completely free, totally accessible. We have really great, over 4,000 salaries that have great information behind them. We capture a lot of information that can help you, career advice and all the details that you want to know about people's salaries. So go check it out if you want a good resource for salary transparency.
Great. Thanks for being here, Hannah.
Thanks, Bridget. Thanks for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed today's show, tell somebody whose salary that you're curious about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.
Don't roast me. I live in the suburbs, so don't be like, he said she's from DC. She's not. I know.
Don't roast
But I'm
Hannah.
proud to be in the DMV area. I'm really proud. I love this area.